spend the first minute or so just talking through some ground rules moving forward for these meetings. So obviously, number one, we want to be respectful when someone else is already speaking. So if we can continue to do what we're doing now, which is if we're not the one talking, keeping it on our mic on mute, that would be awesome. In the interest of time, obviously, we're all extremely busy. We don't want to go over the 8 o'clock hour at any point. So if we can, again, kind of be mindful of our response lengths when we're responding to someone, or if we're sharing an idea or a thought, that would also be, respectful to everyone's time as well. And if any questions come up throughout when someone else is speaking, just feel free to throw it in the chat. Or if you just want some additional clarification on something, we can kind of use the chat feature to mitigate some of, again, the mute on, mic off, that sort of stuff. So everyone's good with that? Awesome. So just a few updates. In terms of note-taking for these meetings, it will be between Carrie and myself. Carrie, I'll hold it down today, so you don't have to worry about it. Another kind of new thing that's happened since we last met, Luke has graciously accepted the opportunity to become our additional administrative support. So where this is going to come in handy is when we're coming toward the end, probably somewhere around February in particular, where we want to start putting all the recommendations together from the different subcommittees. Luke is going to be very vital in making sure that that happens seamlessly and that it kind of has a flow to it, if we will. So thank you, Luke, again, for jumping on board with that. In terms of subcommittees, we have 4 subcommittees moving forward. I just want to quickly touch on each one, and we can spend some time today kind of figuring out how we want to tap other people to join, because obviously these subcommittees won't survive with just like 1 or 2 people. So we can definitely take some time today to figure out some other channels or opportunities we can utilize to get more people involved. So for the first subcommittee, Aaliyah is going to be the chair for that. This one is going to be on what functions should the police perform. The second subcommittee, which will be led by Luke, employing smart and effective policing standards and strategies. Robert has agreed to chair our third committee, fostering community-oriented leadership, culture, and accountability. Our fourth, recruiting and supporting excellent personnel, and Shannon has agreed to lead that subcommittee. Being that we are live streaming, I will share our agenda for the purposes of if anyone in the community would like to join any of said subcommittees. The email address of the subcommittee chair is shared for you to be able to reach out to them directly. Everyone can see that, right? Okay. So just so everyone is aware of what the subcommittee chair's primary role is going to be, definitely recruit friends, family members, people in the area. It's preferred that there are people who are connected to Oneonta in some way to join your subcommittee. Because again, we want to have some help there with the lift for this work. So as subcommittee chairs, those of you who I just mentioned, Aaliyah, Luke, Robert, and Shannon, the onus is on you at this point to kind of identify what you'll need for your group and make that happen. You'll also be responsible for setting up outside times of these meetings to meet with your subcommittee. So whatever that looks like, you might want to reach out and say, hey, what's your availability these days, or what have you. It's up to you during the off weeks when we're not meeting as a larger committee to make sure that those conversations are happening to actually get recommendations in place. As a chair, I will be kind of tapping each of the subcommittee chairs directly in a one-on-one capacity, just to kind of check in, make sure everything's good. If you need any additional information, I'll be the bridge, so to speak, between the subcommittees and the chief, the mayor, Katie, Carrie, like, you know, the liaisons essentially. So whatever you need in that capacity, that's what I'm here for. And ultimately, as the subcommittee chair, the biggest thing that's going to be on your plate is to make sure that we're moving along steadily. Again, April will be here before we know it. I think we've seen how quickly 2020 has gone, thankfully, for I would think all of us would agree with that it has kind of moved along nicely for the most part. But with that said, April will be here before we know it, and we want to make sure that we're putting our best efforts forward. Okay. So like I mentioned, liaisons, the liaisons within this committee are going to be myself, Doug, Gary, Katie, and pretty much what our role as liaisons will be is to help you all. So if there's, for example, for subcommittee 4, I have a lot of experience like with hiring practices and different, you know, things of that nature. So I could be a good person to tap Shannon if you wanted that extra kind of support. Gary, Doug, and Katie are pretty much like the gurus of all things Oneana. So any subcommittee really can tap the three of them as well. So that's what our role will be moving forward. Does anyone have questions about any of that thus far? I will go on mute. All right, so guess no questions, which is good.
Actually, I do have a question, if I may.
Mm-hmm.
When we need data or information, let's say it pertains to, for example, the police standing orders, or if it pertains to the budget, or if it pertains to statistics dealing with crime and the types of crime, how do we request that kind of information?
It's easiest to ask me, and then I can ask the chief directly. Just because, again, he's obviously inundated with just the day-to-day. So we don't want like 8 different people emailing him on behalf of this committee. So if we can just streamline it, to me, that would probably be easiest. So we'll go with, let me know, and then I'll be the bridge to that person or people who can get you that information.
Yama, this is Gary. I just want to say to everyone that if any help I can provide in connecting you with people for your subcommittees, I am happy to do so. So if you email me and are looking for suggestions, you know, it's up to you as the chair who's included on your subcommittees, who you bring in with expertise. But if you would like suggestions from me of people who I think could be assets to your subcommittee, please feel free to email me and I can provide you with a suggested list of people who I think would be of value. I'm happy to do that.
Thank you, Gary. Same goes for me. I have access, obviously, to the entire Hartwick College student body. So with one click, I can literally send something out if you're wanting some more student voices or anything of that nature. So definitely you can tap me. Does anyone else have any like networks that they want to kind of shout out in case any of the subcommittee chairs might benefit from that information?
I do. There's a group here in Oneonta called Oneonta for Equality. They will probably be very interested in some of these issues. I've actually reached out to them, one of the people there, and they seem very interested. So there are probably other people within that group that would be interested as well.
Thank you, Aaliyah. So because everyone has access to everyone's email based on the document, if, again, we may get off this call and you may think, oh, I know someone who would really like to work with this committee or something like that, just let the subcommittee chair know and create that bridge for them. So OPD site visits. So I think to your point, Robert, a good opportunity to be able to understand the people that we are essentially working with and for here. We have organized that OPD site visits can take place, obviously with social distancing in effect. If you want to schedule that, again, on the document here, you will have to contact Doug directly, or you can call the station with the number provided. So, if it is that you and your subcommittee wants to, do like a little field trip, I would say, Doug, do you have a number of people that you're comfortable with coming at once, all at once, or is it?
With everything going on, I really wouldn't want to see more than about 4 or 5 at once. We just, the halls are still kind of narrow. We would ask everybody to have face coverings, and they come, and the basic precautions to take. That's really all. But any more than that would probably be a little too close quarters.
Perfect, thank you. So speaking of Bryce, I hadn't heard from you on which committee you wanted to be on. Did you have one in particular?
Oh, yes. Sorry, I think I accidentally responded to Katie instead. It was just, I realized I sent the wrong email. But definitely fostering community-oriented leadership, culture, and accountability.
Perfect. And John, same goes for you. Is he on the call?
There. I haven't chosen yet, but I'm trying to work with something with going from the arrest to the trial to the incarceration to the release of victims or anything involving the public defender and things like that. So I'm trying to find out which category I could fit that into.
It sounds like you're leaning towards number 1 and or number 4. So recruiting and supporting excellent personnel, or what functions should the police perform? Let's go with number 1, just.
Okay.
Okay, cool. I will put you down.
And who's my connection with that?
Aaliyah.
Aaliyah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, that's fine.
Perfect. Thank you. So I know I sent the document about the municipal actions on police reforms around 5 o'clock-ish, but hopefully you all were able to just skim through, nothing too crazy. I thought it was really helpful. So Gary, thank you for sending us that, just so we have some framework for what some other municipalities are working on already. Did anyone take a look and really enjoy one of the links that they had clicked that they want us to kind of chat through for a little bit?
I read through the City of Hudson's, and it had to do mainly with whether or not police officers should be involved in the policing of social issues, anything having to do with non-criminal or non-violent offenses, and crisis intervention training. So there were a couple of things from there that stood out to me.
It was this one, Aaliyah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, I think it might have been the other link. There was
Oh, the other, okay,
Yeah, that might be just a news article.
yeah.
Good night, Juliana. Come here. You can come and say good night to me. It's fun. Brush your teeth well.
So Aaliyah, I kind of gather just from glimpsing through that you like that they kind of took a stand here. Is that what you really connected to?
Yeah, I believe that, well, when it comes to like reforming the police department and all of these policies, it's important to really highlight why we're doing this to begin with, to like highlight issues like white supremacy and anti-Blackness in the police department. I like that they were able to, you know, put this in their resolution, because it's kind of formatted like a resolution, but also not even just that, but highlighting social justice issues and violence reduction. It was a big part of it too.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I definitely like this stance. Go ahead, Luke.
I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was scrolling through and I thought what Glens Falls was referring to, their law enforcement assisted diversion sounded interesting. Especially, I mean, Oneonta's not immune to, unfortunately, the opioid pandemic going around. And this was talking about programs that allow some low-level offenders dealing with underlying conditions such as drug addiction, homelessness, mental health to avoid arrest by agreeing to enter into a treatment program. And that's the city of Glens Falls. And I thought that sounded pretty interesting. And I think if I read it correctly, they were actually considering this before before the executive order. But it sounds like a way not only to help the police department out, but it also sounds like a way that it might lower some of the rates in the city.
Doug, out of curiosity, is this something that you all were looking at already?
We work pretty closely with our local substance abuse organizations such as LEAF and those, well, that's the main one around here. And Fordu's the other big one. I've been on the opiate task force since it started, and we keep a good open relationship with them to try and find solutions besides just, well, throwing someone in jail, because quite frankly, a substance abuse problem doesn't get solved that way. It's got to be looked at from different eyes. So yeah, we've been working on that with them. This year, I've reported on this before, we've seen a real sharp uptick in substance abuse problems, but it isn't just Oneonta, it's nationwide. And some of the, there's a whole bunch of reasons you could say that for, but the one that's always on the top of the list, of course, is the pandemic. So we do have some working in progress in those areas there.
Okay, thank you. And I do think that's important, subcommittee chairs, for you to keep in mind also, just because it appears that COVID is here to stay. So as you and your subcommittees begin to look at coming up with recommendations, try to also incorporate the COVID-19 effect. I think that's going to be pretty important as we move forward. I know statistically we've been hearing domestic violence cases have been on the rise nationwide, and just all the different things that we can imagine. So try and connect that to some recommendations you should come up with. But yeah, thank you, Luke, for sharing this as well. But yeah, so I think go ahead. I
was just going to say, everybody, this, the document that Biama shared with you has a ton of valuable information. We don't have to reinvent the wheel on every issue. This provides you, thank you to the New York Conference of Mayors, an organization to which the city of Oneonta belongs. They have tracked newspaper articles from all across the state, cities and villages across the state, on what they are doing for police reform. So it's okay for us to build upon their shoulders. So, you know, if you scour these documents, there is such a wealth of information of what other communities are addressing, what concerns they have, what directions they may be looking to go in. You know, I think it's well worth the time to look through these and keep in mind what we do will be documented on there as well. And I'm sure others will build upon what you do. So we're all across the state in this together, sharing information, working with each other and helping each other be the best we can be. So please take the time to look through this. And I really thank the New York Conference of Mayors for putting this together for us.
Gary, out of curiosity, is there one particular city that we're close to in terms of size and maybe demographic? Is that something?
Well, that's a good question, Biama. And, you know, we're obviously all very different. Our demographics are different. But, you know, I think a community that has a lot of similarities to us would be Cortland. They are similar in size. They are a college community. They're not that far from us, a couple of hours away. So, I mean, I think they are a good comparison. College communities are important to compare to because they deal with a lot of the same issues that we do. So whether it's Cortland or Plattsburgh or New Paltz or Geneseo, you know, a lot of them have many of the same issues, Oswego, that we deal with. So those are good cities to take a look at, particularly those that host state universities, because the population that they're drawing is the same population that we are drawing here in Oneonta.
That's helpful, thank you. So in addition to COVID-19, I think we also need to remember that as much as many of us don't consider it to be, we are considered a college town. So definitely have to factor that in as well. So moving right along, again, the information to set up the OPD site visits is right here. We're gonna try to cap it at 5 if you're able to find a time that works for you and your subcommittee. And again, just make sure to let Doug know so that way they're prepared. Doug, if our subcommittee chairs may want certain information similar to like what Robert asked about, is that able to be prepared ahead of time once you know well enough in advance?
Yes, yeah, just let me know. And if you would, let me know how, in what mode you would like that delivered to, email or even hard copy if you really wanted a hard copy, something like that. Yeah, just, let me know that and we can get on it.
Perfect.
Also, if anybody wants to come down by themselves, don't think you have to have a group of 5. You can come down by yourself too.
Mhm. Perfect. Thank you. So, any additional things anyone feels like they'll need to be successful moving forward? Now,
Yes, this is Rob. We saw on the list that was provided, the resource list of various municipalities and the newspaper articles. Not everything goes in the newspaper, but I was curious if Oneonta had a similar list of reform initiatives that have been undertaken that we should be aware of.
Chief, would anything come to mind or a place and a way to access that?
I don't think so. I think we're kind of just looking towards this committee. I mean, we've made some changes based on executive orders within the last 6 months or so, but we haven't jumped forward with anything really big.
Well, don't sell yourself short, Chief, because I think over the last few years, the chief, along with the police department, have instituted a number of initiatives which really have brought different segments of our community closer to the police force. So give that some thought, Chief. You may want to put together a list that you can send to people because you have made considerable strides in those areas.
Yeah, okay. I can review that over what we've done over the last 4 years or so. Sure.
Thank you.
other questions or things people would like to know if we can get so you're successful as we move forward?
Bianca, I just have one thing really quick. Just wanted to say thank you for those resources. On the page, I actually talked to a community member who actually told me about Gloversville. She's actually working, I'll give you guys the name and email, but she works for an agency kind of local or, maybe 30 minutes away. That's actually been working with the Gloversville Police Department. And there's been, they're working on the opioid crisis, in Gloversville and giving, their police department is giving Narcan training. I was trying to look into that to see more details and I'll share that, trying to understand it. But they're actually giving Narcan training resources to the community based on areas. So I thought that was pretty interesting kind of, to try to share resources door to door. Which I found interesting from that perspective. And they also brought in a national organization. I'm just going to pull it up real quick. I apologize, the name, but it's called I Can Breathe and I Will Speak organization. I know a lot of communities are dealing with, the unrest, of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, civil rights issues. But at the same time, it is a sensitive issue because, police officers, are working on the other end and, are trying to do the good work as well. So it can cause a lot of tension in communities. So they actually brought in that group into Gloversville, and the police department was, working with them and the civilians of Gloversville to create more of a united front on that end. I don't know if you guys have seen social media, but it's not really a good time for us. I think we can really improve and be one team instead of separated, You know, it's just, I don't really like that.
Thanks so much, Bryce. Those are some really good ideas and opportunities that I think we can probably easily put together. I know we here at Hartwick had an opportunity for faculty and staff to get Narcan trained. So again, if that's something maybe we can look at, even if it's offered, again, with COVID in mind. We always have to have those extra layers now, but even if it's just to offer something maybe on a Saturday or you know, I think that could again be a good opportunity for us to show that we're working together, like you mentioned, Bryce.
Oh yeah, it's so tough, but I feel like everyone is working together. It's just like little miscommunication things. So hey, let's, you know, see if there's any national organizations or, you know, events that we can do in the future. So we'll work out it in the subcommittee, but I just figured for us with Oneonta wanting to bring that to light, you know, just as a civilian, we could, you know, make some strides there.
Other thoughts?
I just wanted to pop in real quick, if that's okay.
Mhm.
I want to add to what Bryce was saying. So the individual who's working out of Gloversville for the I Can Breathe, that's her group. Her name is LaShawn Hawkins. And it's a great initiative that she started that a lot of the local groups here are now working with. But I just want to put her name out there because he mentioned it and I just wanted to make the connections.
Thank you, Shannon. Thank you. That is very helpful. LaShawn Hawkins. Perfect. Okay.
Diama, this is Rob. I have a question about the subcommittees. With each of the 4 different subcommittees, there's always going to be some overlap in terms of the nature of the material that we're going to be digesting, as well as the analysis that we will provide. My question to you specifically is that, is there a set of guidelines or say the scope of each of the subcommittees that's written up, that's say a paragraph or so long, that would help to frame what each subcommittee is going to be doing?
Rob, I'm going to jump in there. The booklet that was sent to you, that was put out by the governor, I think you have a digital copy of this booklet. If you look at that booklet, it breaks up the chapters pretty much in line with the way the subcommittees are defined. And under each of those sections, there are lists of issues that would pertain to those. So I think that you could actually use that book as an outline almost for the content for each of the subcommittees. It's not it won't align perfectly, but I think it'll align 80%. So I think you'll find that a very helpful guide in the scope of work for each of the subcommittees.
I have nothing to add. Is that helpful, Robert? Okay. So yeah, at the end, like I said, February is when we're looking to really kind of consolidate a lot of this. Obviously, we will, as we go through, go along, if we're hearing similar ideas across subcommittees. But that's where Luke comes in toward February, where we're going to start finessing, cleaning it up, so that way we don't have repetition in the final document. So awesome. So with that in mind, looking ahead, where are we? October? Yeah. we are in the listening and learning stage, technically, according to NICOM. At least that's where we should be. So November, which is next week, I would like for the subcommittees, if we can, to begin to get things to paper. So all the lovely ideas that might be swirling in our heads, that may swirl when we're watching TV, when we're going through life, like let's begin to start putting some of those things to paper, because again, before we know it, we are here at this endpoint. So we don't want to wait and kind of then go into panic mode after the holidays and say, oh dear, we don't have that much time. So make sure that we're pacing ourselves, please. Again, we're all very busy, so little by little, we'll get there. I just don't want it to be a mad dash to the finish line come February, March, when we should be in the revision stage, according to this synopsis here. So our last two meetings for this lovely 2020, it's going to be 11:10, 7 p.m., and you got the invite for that already. By that point, my hope is that as a subcommittee, you would have met at least once by this date, and it will be on the agenda that subcommittee chairs will report out in the anticipation that that has happened. So please kind of use 11:10 as your date in which you will be able to report out. A typo that was made in your initial agenda that you received earlier said 12:1 would be the following meeting. That time had to get changed to 12:08. So just note that. And again, it will be 7 p.m. So by that date, my hope is that as subcommittees, a plan of action should be in place for working independently as a subcommittee for the month of December. We won't meet again after the 8th because, you know, the holidays, people travel, people are just trying to kind of get their bearings with a different sort of way to celebrate this winter. So we won't meet again until the new year. So my hope again is that you all are meeting throughout the month of December to really advance the recommendations at that point. Any questions about that? Okay. January, we will begin again, like I just mentioned, our larger meetings like here. February, my hope is that we will feel like we're nearing the finish line. And March, Luke, and the rest of us will kind of tie it together with a nice bow. Any questions, comments, concerns?
Can I? Hi.
Sure.
So I already have my members in my subcommittee. I have 6 members. I've already created a Facebook page where people can reach out and talk with us. They can find us on Facebook at Sub4 Oneonta, or the page name is Subcommittee 4. It's currently up and running. I also have an email address. It's sub4oneonta@gmail.com if anybody out there would like to connect with us. So just wanted to put that out there.
Shannon is on it. I love it.
Yama, may I say something?
Yes.
is following Shannon. I have so far, there's two of us on my subcommittee, so not quite as established as Shannon. But I wanted to put out there, if anybody's interested in being in group 2, that is looking at employing smart and effective policing standards and strategies, which looks at community policing, reducing racial disparities, building trust and community engagement. Please reach out. I'd love to have a conversation with you and see if you'd like to be on the committee. My email's in the agenda, but you can reach me at lmurphy@oneonta.newyork.us or ny.us.
Oh, Luke, just to let you know, I'll reach out to you individually. There's 2 members on the Otsego County Sheriff Board that actually work at SUNY Oneonta. One's a current student and one's a coach. So I'll just see they're doing the same thing for the Otsego one. I'd be curious to see, you know, if you need any help on that matters, they're doing it right now.
That would be great. Thank you so much, Bryce.
Yeah, no problem.
Sharing is caring. I love it. Any other subcommittee chairs want to do a nice little plug here?
Yeah, so I'm the chair of the subcommittee that has to do with determining the roles of the police. So just to give like a sort of outline, when we call 911, where do these calls get redirected to? Should it be the cops? Should it be social service personnel's? What are complaints that are made about the police, or anything having to do with their budget, with their staffing? So like maybe coming up with some sort of like background checks for who's already in the police department and who wants to be part of the police department. So if anybody has any sort of contribution or any person that would like to be interested in this or that is interested in this, like my email is right there. My name's Aaliyah.
Yeah, and this is Rob, the subcommittee chair for Group 3, Fostering Community-Oriented Leadership, Culture, and Accountability. And Bryce, thanks so much for volunteering. I'll be reaching out to you. I really appreciate it. And anyone interested in those issues in particular, really important issues, especially dealing with accountability and culture. In terms of the distance that people perceive with the police force in the community. I think that's really important to build that kind of trust and have the kind of leadership that emphasizes the importance of building that culture and a culture of accountability. So please reach out to me, robert.compton@oneonta.edu. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Does anyone have any closing thoughts? Gary, Doc, Katie, Carrie?
I just had one more thing. So everything just keeps coming in.
Oh no, this is what we're here for.
This is for Chief Brenner. I just had a question because I was having a conversation, with some friends and just kind of some community members. And one of the things that came to my mind, which you might already have in place, I'll just have to look over it, is just some, the mental health resources for your officers as well. I just know, like with Otsego County sheriffs, and I'm sure yours as well, like understaffing and things can happen. And, we're just kind of trying to find ways to also, protect, your officers and, with support with a lot of these methods, because I feel like, that can be sometimes ignored, and sometimes like a stigma that, officers shouldn't get help. I'm sure that's not your case, but I know like nationally, some people feel that way. So I was just curious if there's any surveying we could do or anything we could help in that manner.
Yeah, we have an employee assistance program through the city. The provider is very proactive. They reach out to us often to see if there's anybody who wants to help anybody else. We also have a peer support officer who's been gone to school training to offer support and recognize signs of problems if an officer's having it and give some help on it. that's a very hot button topic, and you're absolutely correct. There is a stigma that is hard to get over, to be quite honest. As we go through this, if you get to know me more, you'll know I'm a big supporter of mental health services, not just for others, but for our guys as well. And it is a challenge nationally, as well as, you know, we have our own bumps in the road in that area as well. Myself and the lieutenant are huge proponents of utilizing the employee assistance program. But thanks for bringing it up, because many people tend to overlook that. But it's, you know, as we talk more, we'll see that can certainly be an issue with other things down the line.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bryce, for bringing that up. That is very true. Mhm.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring it up just because my dad dealt with it, you know, working in juvenile detention centers, and just, you know, a lot of, you know, it can be tough sometimes, some of the traumatic things you see or, you know, experience. So I know with police, it's probably even more elevated because you're going into homes, seeing, you know, experiences. And so I know it's tough, you know, it's just one of those things. I just figured, you know, we'll keep talking about.
Mhm. Absolutely. Gary, any last words?
Sure. Well, first, I just want to again say thank you to everybody for being willing to put your time and energy into this, and your passion into making the Oneonta Police Department the best it can be for every single person who's part of this community, or every single person who comes to visit this community. You're the leadership team, and I think it's a great team, but we're all doing something we've never done before. So recognize that you're not in this alone. You can call upon each other. You will call upon people in the community to be part of your subcommittees. And feel free at any time to contact me if you have, you know, any questions or concerns. I'm happy to talk to any one of you. Katie Botker, who is our HR director, can be a very valuable resource if you have questions that deal with hiring, firing, discipline, human resource issues. She, you know, I'm sure she would welcome calls. You know, and again, you have that document that shows what's going on in communities around New York State. So it can feel like an overwhelming task if you look at it as we're in it alone, but we're not. We're all in this together, and we can make use of each other. And again, I'm available at any time from anybody if you want to chat. But again, mostly thank you all for doing this.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Well, that seems to be a wrap, folks. You'll be hearing from me likely via email, especially subcommittee chairs, so we can schedule our first one-on-one. Okay. All right.
Sounds good.
Have a great night.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a great night.
Good night, all.